Let me read a letter somebody wrote to me, changing a few details, but more or less the idea is relatively simple. Hi, I enjoy listening to your shiur, and thank you. There is what I think is an accepted yisoid that every problem has a solution. I heard Rabbi Miller speak against people who cause themselves problems and then blame Hashem. For example, leaving an open window and child falling out. I'd like to know if there is a solution to a problem that a man caused himself, or, if that's the case, it's just too bad. I'm a Chassidish Ingeman. I was a good boy in yeshiva. From the second I saw my wife at the show, my first thought was how unpleasant she looked. Now, we're married for over 8 years with almost that many kids, and I don't know what to do about this. Back then, I was idealistic, and I thought I would somehow manage. I was also influenced by a certain Sefer book who writes not to consider beauty when looking for a shidduch. Now I know that it's against Chazal, and that it was bad advice. I was also ashamed of my parents, who I wouldn't be able to tell them that I cared about a woman's beauty. And I didn't want to hurt the feelings of this girl by saying no. The consequences are obvious. I'm not attracted to her. Our shalom bayis is not great, and I struggle with Shmir Sanayim, to put it mildly. I regret this shidduch that I did 1,000,000 times, but what can I do? Thank you. Okay, so anyone who's following my classes long enough know that we spoke about this more than once already. It's relatively common. I don't know if that helps anyone. So it's common. You're not the only one. There are people that feel this way, that they married someone. Well, every part of the question is common, I should say. Both those who thought it would be good and it's not good. Both those who really didn't want, but they did it anyway, and now they realize that they were right. Their intuitive feelings, that it's not a good shidduch. And those who did initially want something and felt good about it, and over time they got to this place. You have people who are married for 20 years, the first 15 were a pleasure, and now, I don't know, my wife is getting older, and she's gaining weight, and she's not as attractive, and whatever, and I don't like the way she looks, and it's all relatively common. I think, let's just go back and start with parents looking for a shidduch, especially talking about a Chassidish shidduch, where parents are, have the biggest part in finding a shidduch. Now, it doesn't sound like these parents, I don't know. I know nothing more than I read, except for the few changed details. But I don't know if these parents had any way of knowing better. Which means, if a bucher or a girl, a boy or girl, are not going to tell their parents how they feel about a shidduch, and they say, yeah, it's great, and the parents go ahead with it, then how much could you really? How much are they to blame? How much do they know? How much do they? Maybe they should have known better. Maybe they should have asked more. Maybe they should have known their child better. But maybe not. Maybe they didn't have to know that. But I think it is important, just for whoever's listening to this, to understand that when it comes to finding a shidduch for a child, let's just focus on the main idea. Look for a shidduch for your child. That's the first thing. It has to be for your child. It's so important. It's so important to make sure that you're doing everything you could to take into account anything that might be important for your child. There's so many other things that are not for your child. So, even in regard to this point over here about looking for somebody who's pretty and good looking and beautiful, let's start with the fact that it's a gemura. It's a gemura. The gemura says clearly that somebody shouldn't get married without seeing the girl first. Why? We're afraid that she's not gonna find favor in his eyes, and he'll be disgusted by the way she looks. So it looks like Achirana, he's looking, and Ba'inov, right? It seems like it's a parent's issue. Appearance, not parents. It's an appearance issue, and it's important that someone should be attracted, or at least not disgusted, and be okay with who they're marrying. So we have to start with the fact that it's a gemura. If anyone is telling you that if you do care you shouldn't, that's for sure wrong, right? The point of the gemura isn't that everyone should be obsessed with how someone looks. The gemura is just making sure. Make sure this person is finding favor in your eyes, so that you don't later come to Tzgana Ulav. Now, when you think about it, l'choira, if what's really so important is that somebody looks beautiful, all the Gemara had to say would be, you shouldn't marry off your child to somebody who is not beautiful. As long as you're marrying them off to somebody pretty, we have no reason to assume that it will be Tizgana Ba'inav, right? So why does he have to see the girl? As long as you saw the girl and you make sure that she's a pretty girl, what would be the problem? And the answer is, aside from the fact that beauty is in the eyes of the beholder, right? What's pretty? What's beautiful? What is it? It's a relative term, right? It's subjective. I think one thing is pretty. You think something else is pretty. To me, one thing is attractive. To you, something else is attractive. So that alone is is just important because, when a child has a certain opinion about what they're looking for, what they're not looking for, and parents think, oh, you're being silly because really something else is prettier or nicer or more important, you have to realize, it depends on him. It doesn't depend on, the Gemara is not saying to look for pretty girls, it's saying to make sure that he's happy with who he's going to marry. So that's the first thing. And I think it's the same about almost anything. If even about physical beauty, which could be somewhat determined, the Gemara says that it's relative to each person. So of course when it comes to anything else, being attractive, whether it's somebody's character or somebody's different things that are important to people, make sure that if something is important to someone, that he's getting that. There's another idea also which I think is important, and I've seen this more than once, is that when somebody has a choice about something and they choose it and they don't feel it's being forced on them, they're okay with it. They like it. It's good. It's good. I decided it's good. If you would just put someone into a house, you needed a house. This is your house. Chances are they wouldn't be so happy with the house. Chances are they would notice all the problems in the house, and the problems of the house would probably outweigh the benefits, because why do you put me in a house where the kitchen is like this and the sink is like that and the bathroom is this way and that's that way? Why? Those are the things that were important to you? Well, maybe not. But if you give him a choice, or even if he only has one choice, but it's the choice of either taking it or not taking it, and he's okay with it, so that alone, it makes it find favor in his eyes. So I've seen this also, where people were saying, you're being silly, you think it's a problem, it's not a problem. Look, everyone will tell you it's good. But the Gemara is telling us, don't put someone into it without giving him the choice. Because if you do, then maybe tazgana ba'ainav, which means by not seeing in advance and not being given the choice, chances are that it won't find favor in his eyes. Even if just looking in advance, might be a great way of making him, making him feel better about it. And I saw this recently, mamish, with just the fact that somebody wasn't able to feel that he had the choice, it made it so unfavorable. And even though everyone around him was telling him that it's wrong, and everyone would say otherwise, it doesn't matter anymore. The Gemara is saying don't put it on someone, because then it might not find favor in his eyes. So I think it's just also an important point, not only about looks, about anything. Now, it's not only about looks. Obviously, parents have to make sure that whatever they're looking for is specific. It's tigapast, has to match up for this child. If this child needs someone who's very spiritual, or someone very intelligent, or someone very good looking, or they don't care about anything, or they just need someone very pleasant, both what the child cares about, and even what the child may not care about, but what's really good for him, it's so important. Somebody told me recently that maybe I'm taking silly things into account instead of the real things that matter, which means, the real things would be a good character and good midas and good things like that, and that would make it easy for my child to get along after marriage. Maybe I'm focusing on all the externals, but I feel like the externals are the only things I can really determine, I can really assess properly, right? How good someone is? Well, whoever I ask information about, they all say about any girl I ask about, she's a wonderful girl. Yeah, she's good midas. Yeah, good midas. I never once asked information, and they told me, no, she has terrible midas. Right? So if everyone has good midas, and I can't know much about that, even though I understand that's really more important, but at least let me find out the other things. How does she look? Let me see a picture. What's the family like? Where do they live? How much money they have? Those are things that I could assess properly. So why would I get stuck on the things I can't assess? Let me at least work on the things I assess and hope for the rest, to fall into place. Yeah, it's cute. And if that would be true, then it would make sense. It would make sense. If it's if it's a trial and error, and it's a hit or miss, you either find someone who's easy to live with or not. That's just a freak chance that you can't do anything about. It's all bashert, obviously. Then you might as well just take everything else into account, right? Because if they're a good person anyway, at least there'll be money too. And if they're not a good person anyway, at least there'll be money. But it's wrong. It's wrong. There's so much that you could find out and look into, and sometimes get help with determining if somebody is going to be an easy spouse to the best of your knowledge and kishron to find out. And that's what's important. And if parents aren't taking that into account, it's a problem. It's a problem. So often when it comes to a shidduch, people take so many other things into account, they don't realize how little they're actually taking into account the boy and the girl. That's my point. The boy and the girl, that's almost everything. It's almost that. Why do I say almost? Because you're also a person, parents, and you are the ones that brought up a child, and you have principles, and you have your ego and your pride, and you're paying for the chasna. I'm not saying that you don't come into the picture at all, but almost everything should be about the boy and the girl. I was recently at a chasna, and I was coming in. It was a big crowd there, very big crowd, a lot of people from both sides. And I was thinking to myself, okay, it's going to take me a very long time to get to the chusen and to give mazel tov even, forget about to dance with him and make sure he remembers that I came and he enjoys my presence, which was really why I'm coming. But I figured, I don't have a choice. I come into the chasna. I assumed that it would take me at least a half hour just to get in and out. I come in and I look at one ring of people dancing real lebedik. I'm looking for the chusna. He's not there. I look to the other ring, people dancing and running. Yeah, he's not there. And I look in the middle of the hall, like literally in between two big rings of people that were, rings and rings of people that were dancing very lebedik and enjoying the moment. I see the chusna standing there. He looked so lost that he didn't know where to go, and almost nobody noticed him. Nobody knew where he was, and he was just looking for what to do. And I grabbed him and I danced with him, and for me it was, it worked with my schedule, because in 5 minutes I was able to leave after having accomplished what I wanted to. I wasn't looking to be out. I wanted him to enjoy my presence, and he did. But then I was thinking to myself, so often there's so much that goes on from before looking for the shidduch till after the sheva brachas, and often it's just not focused on the boy and the girl. It's on everything else, right? Everyone's enjoying themselves. Everyone's thinking about themselves. Everyone has their own cheshbonos in mind. And the people that really have to live with it, and the people that it's most important to, and the people that you want to be misamayach, chusim v'kala, those are the ones that have to live, b'hava achva, shulim v'rayas, as I always mentioned. Those are the people that you don't take as much into account. It's a problem. My shver, Zayin Gzin, told me a story that he heard from his Rosh Hashiva, Rabbi Elia Chazan, his Rosh Hashiva Tervadas. He repeated a story from Rabbi Shimon Gruen. I assume he was a Talmud from Rabbi Shimon Gruen. And you remember he had a friend who asked Rabbi Shimon Gruen about a shidduch. They were offering. He had two suggestions of two shadichim, and he was asking Rabbi Shimon Gruen for guidance. So the Rosh Hashiva tells him, I don't give guidance when it comes to a shidduch. I don't give guidance when it comes to shidduch. Why ask me this question? I don't tell people this is the one area where he didn't tell people what to do. He said, listen, if the Rosh Hashiva is not going to tell me what to do, I'm not going to do a shidduch. I have two shadichim in front of me, and if the Rosh Hashiva is not going to help me, then nish to nish. So I guess the Rosh Hashiva said, okay, let me hear what the suggestions are. So he said, one shidduch is the daughter of a big Rosh Hashiva, and maybe I think he didn't have any sons even that Rosh Hashiva, so there's potential there, a future over there. But the girl isn't so I. I mean, she was probably erlich, but she wasn't either pleasant or easygoing or whatever it was. A difficult girl, but the shidduch was a beautiful shidduch. The other shidduch was a daughter of a simple person, a very simple person, and but the girl was a special girl, a good girl, a special girl, a pleasant girl. Very, very, very good girl. So what do? So Shimon Gruen says, listen, my policy is that I don't tell people what shidduch to do. But I'll just help you understand the question better. I'll tell you what will happen if you marry this girl, and if you marry that girl, and you'll decide on your own. So if you marry the daughter of the Rosh Hashiva, the chasna will be a major chasna. A huge chasna will be so amazing. The levaya, 50 years later, will be a huge levaya. You can be sure, a huge levaya, the Shiva. But the 50 years in the middle, not going to be so geschmack. You marry the other girl, the chasna will be, a little chasna, nothing major. The levaya, probably the same thing. But the 50 years in the middle will be very, very enjoyable, good, happy years. And that answered his question. So I think that it's the same thing when it comes to so many other things where parents, you look at the big picture and you have to understand, the chasna and the levaya are very important, but it's really what's going to matter most for your child that should be taken into account. So this is the two sides of the shidduch crisis. You have the parents who are not doing shidduchim with their children because nothing is good enough. You have the ones that are pushing too quickly without making sure it's good enough, and we all need so much d'shmaya when it comes to that. Now, okay, enough said for the parents, because the question wasn't anything about parents, even though the questioner, Mitzvah, who has a bunch of children on his own, will have to also take everything into account. Now, I think that there are so many things that really are important in life. Each person is entitled to what's important to them. To think that to everyone, looks and attraction and beauty is the same important, it's a big mistake. It's a big mistake. In other words, to take the message out of here that, okay, so now I have to look for someone pretty. If not, maybe they'll be turned off by how they look. It doesn't mean the same much to everyone. As a matter of fact, often you have parents who are obsessed with how a girl looks, or even when a boy, for that matter. Just recently heard about a shidduch that was called off because the parents, not the girl, the parents didn't like how the boy looked, and he happened to be a handsome boy, if you ask me. But it doesn't matter what you ask me. He's not good. He's not as good looking as we'd want to consider it for a girl who's already quite a few years in. My point is just that looks are important to the person. It's important too, and if they're important, then you shouldn't deny the importance. And parents should know that it's important to a child. And if they're not important, then you shouldn't be obsessed with the looks because they're not important. And you're getting obsessed with something that's not so important, and you're overlooking some things that are important. It's very very important to know how to really understand. Like I said before, what's important to a child. For a child to know it, and to allow a child to know it, and to not be afraid to say it, and take it into consideration and do the right thing. So like I said, looks could be very important to some people, and they're entitled. And very many beautiful, pretty women have made very many men's lives miserable. And to think that it's just about attraction is definitely a big mistake. Although, if you're anyway marrying somebody who's going to make your life miserable, at least let her be pretty. But my point is just that you have to know what to take into account. I will say that, for the most part, when people talk to me, obviously when you send me a letter, I don't know who you are, and I'm not here to guide you. But when people come to me and talk to me about this topic, I could say that most of the time, very, very much most of the time, ruba of the time, that people have this issue where somebody else's looks is bothering them, getting on the nerves. It's not about the looks. It's not about the looks. It's an added component, and it's aggravating to not that someone's not finding favor in your eyes, and you may be even disgusted sometimes about how someone looks, but it's not the looks. There's always more to it. As a matter of fact, you also you threw in over here, that you're not attracted to her, and the Shalom Bayis is not great. Most people reading this would probably assume that, okay, if you're not attracted, of course Shalom Bayis is not great. It's not that way. It's not that way. I will validate that the looks itself, the fact that it doesn't look good and you're not attracted, is an additional aggravation. I don't think you're fooling yourself. But it's not that way. It's most often the Shalom Bayis and the relationship and the interaction and the communication isn't great and not pleasant and not the way it should be. And automatically, the fact that somebody doesn't look good is just so much more painful or aggravating. If you'd be a pleasant person and it would be easy to get along with you, and I'd love coming home to you, and you'd be nice to me, and considerate, and respectful, and pleasant, and flexible, so the fact that you don't look so great, okay, not everyone looks great, especially over time, right? By the time you hit a certain age, and by the time different things happen to people, so you don't look great. If somebody's not well, they don't look great, okay, right? But usually, what's really happening is this underlying stuff in a relationship, which is what's really bothering someone, and then the fact that the person didn't look good, or never looked good, or was never attractive, that's really a killer. So I think it's very important, to understand it properly. So I don't mean to retract anything I said till now. If you care about someone's looks, you should know that you care. You should say that you care. And if you know that your child cares, then you should take that seriously. But to think that that's everything, or even when you think that it's missing and that's what's bothering you, to really think that's what it is, first of all, it's most often not what it is. Second of all, that's the part that you might not be able to do anything about. So to harp on the things you can't change when there are things that you could make better, that would be a problem. So let's get a little practical and try to answer the question that you asked. You started off with what you think is accepted yesod, that every problem has a solution. I'm not even sure what that means, really. I'll be honest with you. I don't know what it means. Every problem has a solution. It has a solution. Maybe it depends what you call a solution. What's the definition of solution? Does it mean that every problem can be done away with? Not necessarily. When it comes to physical problems, you have people who sometimes have a problem that Hashem gave them, a limitation, whatever it is. Is there a solution to it? There might not be a solution. And it's not only when it's a physical thing, so that we understand, okay, so it's physical, what can you do about it? It's with everything. It depends what you call a solution. There's usually, or I think always, there's always a next best move, if that's what you call solution. Hashem put every person in a situation where he has a choice. What his choices are, big discussion from Rav Dessler, Bakant, Rav Dessler, do I have a choice of whatever I want? Yeah, bechira. What do you mean? Does it mean that I can master the whole Shas today? You're saying everyone has free will, right? Do I have free will to master the whole Shas in one day? No. So I don't have bechira? I have bechira. I have choices in front of me that I can make. I have the next best move toward knowing the whole Shas. I can utilize my time better. I can learn better. I can learn more diligently. I could put in more effort. That I could do. To say I'm not given a choice. I have a choice. I have a choice of using the coming hour the right way or the wrong way. But does it mean that I can choose whatever I want? No. So I think that, I don't know where you got this yesod about the solution part is, but I think every problem that you're presented with, you're given two paths about how to approach this problem. One is better than the other. One is closer to a solution than the other. One is a better move than the other. And that's something that we should definitely always feel good about. Making the next best move. It might not be a full solution. It might not be any solution, but it's the next best move. And that I could do. I'm not stuck. Now, you also started your question over here about Victor Miller, if you did something wrong, then you blame Hashem, and what can you do about it? You made a bad decision. I want to clarify, you don't sound like you did anything wrong. You don't sound like you did anything wrong. You went into a shidduch thinking that you'll manage, right? That's what you say clearly. You thought that you'll get used to it, okay? maybe it was a little naive. Maybe if you would have asked someone for guidance and they're a little smarter or older, they would have told you maybe not to do it. But you went in thinking you're doing the right thing. You didn't want to hurt someone's feelings. The part about your parents maybe was a mistake on their part, maybe. But I'm saying you went into this not to hurt yourself, or not thinking that it's shlik dechateva to be happy, and now you're seeing that, so you're waiting for a nice. No, you hope that it would be good, and you made a mistake. Now, I think this goes into, a lot of times it's just Hashem's way of putting people in a certain place. It's Hashem's way of making you decide something at a certain time in your life. It's like it's Hashem putting you in a certain situation, Hashem sending a certain shidduch, giving you a certain way of thinking at the time, and things like that. I don't think you should blame yourself or feel bad about what you did. The fact that there might not be a solution or a way out, that's a separate discussion. But and you should know, Rabbi Miller himself discusses these things. How sometimes I'll just read a quote that it's actually from a speech by Rabbi Miller, where he says that there's sadness and weeping, but you're not distressed because it has nothing to do with you. HaKadosh Baruch Hu did it. If somebody was blameworthy, he was culpable, he was careless, he neglected safety, and as a result, somebody lost his life, then it has a great deal to do with him. But if something was not the result of your misdeed, of your negligence, therefore it has nothing to do with you. Now, of course, you have to know how to apply this, to know when to say, listen, Hashem, I did the right thing, or I want to do the right thing, and it has nothing to do with me, so help me. Or don't help me, but don't blame me, however you want to say the word help me, not it is what it is. This is what I got myself into, not meaning anything bad. And sometimes you were negligent. Just yesterday, I walked by. I walked by a store. I say yesterday. I post my classes on Sunday, but I obviously record them sometimes earlier. So I walked by a store yesterday, a grocery, and there was a carriage in front of the store, and there was nobody around the carriage. I look inside, there was a baby there, and I looked right and left, and I couldn't believe it, and there was nobody there, and it wasn't just 5 seconds. It wasn't somebody who went behind the thing and just got something quickly. There was a baby on the street in a carriage, with nobody coming or going or watching. There was nobody in eyesight. I couldn't believe it. I could have walked over that baby. Now, Baruch Hashem, I have my own. Hashem should help me with them, but to leave a baby on the street like that, chaz v'shalom. So I know there's cameras and there's shomrim and there's ways to get back babies in Mitzvah Hashem. You should never have to, but that's called negligent. It's called negligent. But when somebody makes a decision in their life, especially when certain decisions are made on idealism. And Rabbi Miller himself used to talk about idealism. There are a lot of decisions that we make in life based on a certain idealistic attitude we have when we're young. When we're young, I want to buy a house in a Torah community with B'nai Torah, where everyone has a lower standard, and everyone has a lower standard in materialism, and everyone is more Torah-oriented or whatever. So I buy my house there. After a few years, I'm not happy. I'm not a koil guy, and I'm not enjoying it, and whatever. So did I make a bad decision? I didn't make a bad decision. I made an idealistic one. When I was young, I had a certain idealism, and people have this all the time when it comes to a shidduch. Married ben Torah, wanted a koil life, or whatever. After a few years, I'm not happy anymore. The fact that you lost your idealism is a shame. And we should never lose that idealism. And if only we could grow older and still hold on to certain principles and values and ideas, that we had when we were young, that would be the best. Unfortunately, a lot of these things fizzle out over time. But does it mean it was a mistake? Not necessarily. You married somebody thinking based on what you learned in Svurim and based on what you believed in and based on your ideals that, okay, this is not important. This is what Hashem wants. And what Hashem wants is the right thing. You shouldn't regret that. The fact that you don't have it anymore, so you can't relate to it like you used to. But talking about getting yourself into a mistake and, feeling bad about it, now I'm at fault for my misery, and there's no solution. Also not because I caused it. I think that when it comes to something like this, it's important to know how to break it down and say, listen, I did the right thing, I wanted to do the right thing, and here I am, and let me see what I can do now. Now, I think in general, nobody knows what's gonna happen when it comes to a shidduch. I always say you can make the best shidduch decision in the world, and I mean really the best, not just when it looks the best for everyone. You made the best responsible decision, you married the best person. Does anyone know what the future will bring? Does anyone know how long that person's going to live? Or what's going to be their mazel? There's no way to know. So it's all about hoping that it's going to be good. And that's what you did. Now, of course, like I said, there's ways to do it more responsibly. But I don't think that you should feel bad. I think, practically speaking, one of the first things that you have to do in such a situation is accept the situation. Now, it might sound a little cliche, just accept. I want to explain what that means. If you're considering leaving this marriage, which I don't think you are, and you're not sure about it, and you want to know who to discuss it with, and you want to know if it's the right thing to do, or not the right thing to do, or that's a different question. Yeah, different question. Everyone has the right. Everyone has the right. The Gemara talks about it. Different reasons to get divorced. Found somebody more beautiful than my wife. Okay, we'll try something else. You have the right. But when that's not the question, and it isn't, and I don't think it is, and I don't think it should be, for that matter, that's not what you're considering. You're just describing your misery and saying how much it bothers you. The first thing to do is make that conscious acceptance. I'm in this marriage, and I'm staying in this marriage. And I'm not leaving this marriage. So there's no other option but to make it work. Yom Tov Glazer has this thing that he talks about, I don't know who he's quoting, the difference between mice and men. Mice, when they come looking for the cheese, they go every day to where it is, and if they come one day, it's not there, okay, they'll come maybe the next day again, it's not there, so they'll start looking somewhere else. Humans, when they come looking for the cheese, in their own human examples of where the cheese is supposed to be, or what the cheese is, they'll come once, twice, and if they keep on finding it there, they keep on coming back, but if it's not there one day, they'll stand there and cry for the rest of their lives, there used to be cheese here, why is there no cheese, it's not right, it's wrong, and never get over it. Right? The mice, they figure it out, there's no cheese here, we'll go look for it somewhere else. I think in general, when people are going through difficulties, you always have to remember, and I said, it's a conscious thing. Subconsciously, we all know it anyway, but consciously, okay, there is nothing I can do about this. I can't change the way my wife looks. I can't have a new wife. I don't want to. I'm here, and I'm accepting it, and this is what it will be. Now, let me make the best of it. Now, let me make the best of this situation. It's sad when people just keep on harping on the fact that, but I'm not happy. Yeah, but I'm not happy. But really, I wanted something else. But really, I never wanted this. But if I would only have that. And these thoughts, obsessively, keep on coming into your mind, and it comes from not accept. No. That's not an option. Something else is not an option. I accept that this is my option. Now, if this is my option, now let me see what I can do. So like I said before, I believe that almost anyone who is struggling with this part of, I don't like how my wife looks, I never did, there's so much more about the relationship that you don't even realize how much it's bothering you, maybe, or maybe you do, and that you could work on. It would be a shame not to work on that. It would be a shame to just say, you know what, I'm anywhere not happy, why should I work on it? You never know how much your wife's unappealing appearance might appeal to you more if only you can get her into a better place. Now, it could be it's her fault. It could be she should be the one learning how to take care of the Shalom Bayis better. But there's so much that you could do. There's so much that you could do to interact better, to make her feel better, to communicate nicer. And again, there's only so much I could say in one class, but I think that there's so much you could do to work on the relationship from your end that could bring out the best in her, and who knows, how much that could really accomplish. This is like every other class I've ever given about Shalom Bayis, understanding the other person, making them feel good, making them want to please you, and together with knowing how to put your foot down when somebody's bothering you, and tell them in a nice way that this can't happen, so that you're aggravated less often, and automatically it brings out a better part of the other person. There's definitely a lot to that, which I think is important. I'll just end off with one more line that you mentioned about Shmir Sanayim, being difficult, to put it mildly, right? Shmir Sanayim is a challenge. It's a challenge for everyone, and whoever's struggling with it should feel normal, right? But you got to do something about it. Now, there's the mild, simple struggles, which people mechazek themselves and do what they could and try their best, and for the most part are matzliach. And you have people who are really struggling, like you said, to put it mildly. I don't know the extent of it. There's help out there. I'm just giving it as an example, but there's the GYE website, right? Guard Your Eyes, for people who are really struggling and need a lot of chizuk, a lot of help, and somebody to hold their hand and help them. That's the first thing. You're struggling, get help, or do something about it. Don't sit and, again, but she doesn't look good. I don't like how she looks. I never did that. It might have to do with your Shmir Sanayim struggle. I'm not saying it doesn't have to do, but the struggle is a struggle of its own, and it's your own responsibility to take care of it. Now, women should know that working on or improving their appearance, or just being conscious about how they look and pleasing a husband and things like that, it has a direct effect. The Torah talks about it, the Chazal talk about it. Women are supposed to do whatever they could to make to be more appealing to their husbands. And knowing that a husband could struggle with his Shmir Sanayim and other areas because he's not attracted to his wife is something every woman should know. It doesn't mean that men don't have to take responsibility on their own issues, or just sit there and blame someone, or assume that it can't get better just because something is not working out properly. So I'll end by saying that yes, it's not easy. It's not easy. I understand that you're going through a lot of difficulty. I think you want to make the best of it, though. It would be a shame to settle for anything less than what you could have. So you asked, are there problems that you can't find a solution for? You could find a solution for. Like I said, it depends what you call solution. Does solution mean that your wife could be the prettiest woman in the world? Maybe in your eyes, I don't know. It sounds, again, idealistic. Yeah, you'll see her as the prettiest woman there is. Maybe. But if it could be better than it is now, by working on the relationship and helping her be the wife she could be, to find favor in your eyes, and working on your Shmir Sanayim, maybe feeling less resentful about her and things like that. Now, I think you should definitely do whatever you could to improve this relationship and not settle for less than that. So just to make the short summary, we spoke to parents about shadichim and looking for whatever your child needs, whatever it may be, because that's what's most important. That's first of all. To assume that Shalom Bayis is only based on attraction and looks is a big mistake. And even when you think it is, there's really usually much more to it. And practically speaking, you should not feel guilty if you made a decision that you thought would be good for you. Right? That's Hashem's way of putting you where you are. You might not be able to solve it in the way that you want to solve it, but you probably could put in a lot of effort into making this relationship the best that it could be. With Hashem's help, when you do that, things can really be better. So, I started over this verse from the Rebbe Lublin, V'dal es heda berivai. I would never trivialize the problem that somebody has when they don't like how their wife looks. I hope nothing I said sounds like, okay, so again, so do this and do that and make the best of it. No, this is difficult. And you're entitled to feel that way about your own struggle as well. And still daven to Hashem to give you the koiches that you need to overcome the difficulty, make the best of it. Do whatever you could on your end, and miss them together with your wife for long, happy, and healthy years. Live together.